Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Matt Forte, and we are here live at the Build studio in New York City. Our last guest today, man, is a fantastic actor, singer, producer, television personality. Man, you know him for his portrayal of Fez on That 70s Show. You've seen him recently on Grey's Anatomy or maybe even The Ranch, or you catch him regularly as Special Agent Nick Torres on NCIS. For his latest project, he's host and co-executive producer of The Hollywood Puppet Show, which will kick off its second season next Tuesday, July 17th at 10:30 p.m. on Fuse. Here to tell us all about the amazing things he's got going on, the wonderful Wilmer Valderrama is here. How about that, people? Huh? Wilmer's in the house. Yes. You are correct to applaud as such. He's pretty awesome. So we're going to bring him out in just a second. But before I do, I believe we have a trailer for the show. So, Luke, let's go ahead and run that clip.
I'm super famous.
What's up, music? Y'all ready to turn the up? Somebody say yeah!
Chug! Woo! It was love at first sight.
Maybe we can have a threesome.
Oh, man. Winner, chicken dinner.
I'm opened up for Beyonce in front of 50,000 people. I completely forgot the lyrics to my own damn song.
My story is legendary.
Fun.
Crazy as hell. 100% true. It really happened to me.
The vibes were right, and I felt like it was time to make my move. Ew, I'm kind of turned on.
If I'm gonna get high, it is now or never.
Feeling anything?
What that? What kind of vodka you got? Ooh. It was big as a person.
Not today.
Man, are you kidding me?
This was some unique
Get some popcorn.
Turns out, human life was coming out of my vagina.
Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for Wilmer Valderrama. Come on. Come on. Oh, man. Man, congrats on another season of this hilarious show, dude. I'm excited to talk to you all about it. We'll get to it in a minute, but the beauty of Build is that we got some time here. So first, I always love to ask, how are you? How are you doing, man? How's Wilmer?
I'm doing good.
Yeah?
Good. I've shared on social media the fact that I am extremely tired.
So tired, man.
So
You're from Australia.
tired. Yeah, I'm very jet lagged. I just came from Australia Thursday night. You know, that flight from Australia, from Sydney all the way to New York.
Yeah.
You got to stop in LA. You get like literally an hour and a half to just get some kind of breakfast and then get back in the plane. Yeah. It's no joke. That time difference is crazy.
What was the total? What was the amount of time in the air? How long is that flight? How much time did you spend on a plane?
So,
you were on a plane for a whole day?
Yeah, I mean it's like a full-on, almost 20-hour travel thing, you know. But going there is 15 hours. Okay. Coming back, because of the wings and all that, it's about maybe about 12 and change. And then you land at 6 a.m. Then you have to, and everybody who's made this trip at home and maybe here can relate to this thing. So then you gotta pick up your bags from baggage claim. You have to walk through customs, and then you have to recheck them in. Then you have to walk outside, go to the next terminal over for domestic flights, then go through security again, and then try to make your flight at that point. To come to New York. So there's no easy way to come straight through.
That sounds terrible, but what I will say is everyone I've ever talked to that's ever done it says the same thing. Totally worth it. It's beautiful over there.
Yeah,
it's an absolute paradise.
It's gorgeous.
It's incredible.
It's beautiful. The people are amazing.
Yeah,
and
everyone's so
very
nice over there. Yeah,
I had a really, really good time, and I was able to really get to know it. I went to Melbourne. I went to Sydney and Gold Coast, and got to do some cool stuff over there.
How long were you out there for?
I was there for almost 2 weeks.
Nice. If you're gonna
just enough to get my clock, from Australia. just so I can rip
Mess it
it
up
back.
again.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And well, it's nice to have you in New York and have you here. You know, there was I was telling you earlier, I was looking at your Instagram. You did something pretty cool earlier today, especially for someone who's a little sleep deprived. But you made some time for your fans in a way that I don't see often, and I thought was really cool. And I wanted to call out. And I think we have a picture of your feed so we could actually see what you did here. For those that don't know what I'm talking about, they'll bring it up in a second. But you essentially put out an open call to all your fans. You're like, I'm going to be hanging out at this spot. Yeah, here we are.
Yeah.
And people just come on by and we'll hang out and chat. This is awesome. I didn't realize this was something you do. Is this like a normal thing for you? You go to a new place and you just send up the flag. Hey, everybody, let's hang out.
Yes. You know, you know, my fans are, I mean, just unbelievable, and they've been with me for over a decade or plus. You know, I've been doing this thing for, you know, 22 years now.
Yeah.
And I've had some incredible fans that have been around through the entire journey, and then some new fans based on certain projects that have, you know, come in, and their support is amazing. And when I get to travel internationally, you know, in my early 20s, I got to a habit where I would land, and I would go from the plane into a limo, car, SUV, or whatever, take you to the hotel, you check in, you know, you go to sleep, have some breakfast, do press all day, do an event, and then get back in the car and back in the plane and return. And I did that for so long, and I thought I had traveled the world. Yeah. And I thought that I had really kind of like, oh, have you been to London? Yes. Have you been to this place in London or that restaurant or whatever? And the answer was like, I guess I didn't have time to do that, you know? And fairly quickly, I started really creating a certain time to do things that matter to me. And every time that I would post that I was at a city and I had to leave, certain fans from that country or that's saying, oh, I wish we would, you know, a chance to meet you. And, you know, all of us actors, we're not like musicians where we do meet and greets at a concert and you get to meet somebody. So I just had this idea that I would, every time I would go to a different country or a different city, I would go for a run of the city, so I can get the energy of the street and go through the park and the greenery and get to see the city. Like, it doesn't get more raw, you know, than you just going for a run and through the city. Yeah. And then somewhere at the end of that run, I would also, you know, I would put in 2 hours before, but at the end of my run, I would say, I'm going to be at this location around this time. And if you're around and want to come and have a nice chat about life and things, you know, I'll be there. And I've been blown away by the love and the reception. And from Amsterdam to Madrid to Australia to here, I mean, it's been a beautiful thing.
How do you engage in a conversation when you have this many excited people around you? Does the shock and the star shock wear off after a moment and you actually get to just talk to people and they just connect with you as a human being? Is that what ultimately happens?
Yes. I mean, what I try to do is, you know, I do it 2 hours before. So, you know, the fans that I'm in their radar immediately, or the supporters that I'm in their immediately, they get to see it right away. So within the 2 hours, they get to make it to the destination in that city. Then after that, I take down the post. You know, and the idea is that, you know, whoever made it there on that time, you know, this is kind of a standard. You know, it becomes, you know, between, you know, 20 or 30 people sometimes. So cool. And what happens is, you know, there's the initial like, hi, how are you? There's the excitement, you know, there's the hugs and there's the thing. Yeah. And then after the crowd starts gathering a little bit and they're punctual, you know, they're there on that time. You know, the first thing I do is I explain to my supporters the you know, the nature of the meet, right? Which is and I tell them a little bit of what I just said to you. I travel the world. This is what happens, and
I want to actually know.
That's right, and I feel like it to be a nice discussion. And if there's any questions that you ever wanted to ask me personally, or if there's any subjects or anything that is in your mind, anything that's bothering you, I somehow subliminally create a support system. Yeah. And then everyone's there for each other, and all of a sudden, friendships have come out of this, and I see them. You know, it's really unique.
That's a beautiful thing, man. This is the last thing I'm going to do. Let's see, because there's a lot of fans in here. Bonus: is anyone in this room in this photo? Let's just real quick. Was anybody there today? No. Fresh fans. Okay. I was just making sure.
Someone's a liar. Someone's not saying it aloud, but yeah, there's
You
someone
recognize?
here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, yes,
Fair
yes.
enough. Fair. I won't put you on blast. I won't blow it up. But okay, cool. Let's go back to the poster. I just thought that was such a cool thing that I was ignorant to. I saw that today when I was doing my little like last minute research, and I was like, man, we got to talk about that. That is a cool thing to do, and I just wanted to call that out. This show, talking about cool things to do, is hilarious. You are executive producer. You are a host. What possessed you to make this madness, man? This show is insane.
Yeah,
Talk to me about how it got to be.
So, it was very simple, man. I have a production company, and I've had many studio deals and developed a lot of stuff from the scripted to non-scripted, and I have 2 big animated features that I produce with the producer of the Shrek franchise, and it's a beautiful movie, one Charming, the other one's called Trouble, which we'll announce later. And then all the TV shows, the scripted stuff that we're developing in the moment, but there is occasionally in your slate there is a project you just have to make, where it's not gonna make you any money. It's not gonna it's anything, but it's more an excuse for you to hang out with your friends and do something so ridiculous that is just odd and funny and silly. So this was one of those things. I just basically wanted to create something that I can call my friends and be like, remember when you told me that crazy story? And I thought it was really weird, and I wish that all the people had listened to it. Anyway, so here's the show.
How do you convince your friends to tell these crazy stories publicly? And like, how do you get them to be comfortable with the idea of like revealing these intimate moments that they shared with you, in times past?
Well, it's a safe place, right?
Yeah.
It's a safe place, and in most interviews we never have the time to really tell the beginning and end of the story, So sometimes we have 6 minutes in an interview. You guys, when you see talk shows, morning shows, or whatever, it's a 6-minute segment at the most, maybe 8 minutes if you're someone that want to talk about another subject or whatever. But ultimately, throughout that time, you don't really have the opportunity to really, really dive in and really give you moral of the story or what really happened, So it's a very simple phone call that I make to my friends, and I go, okay, so here's the idea. I have this show where very much of a crime investigation channel, while you're telling the crime or the story or whatever it is, we break into reenactments, but instead of having actors do it, we do it marionettes. And we have 3D printing, so the marionettes look exactly like the people. So in that sense, so he goes, so if you have a funny story, I'd love for you to tell a funny story, but you want it to just, and they're like, yes, that sounds hilarious or whatever, and then they come up with the story.
Where were you when the marionette idea hit you? Because that's the part that like takes this whole, because people have been doing storytellers for a while. The thing that turns it on its head are the marionettes, and because of where we are technologically, the 3D printing makes them borderline creepy. Like they're
creepy.
super weird and creepy when you see them the first time.
I gotta tell you, the creepiest part is when we're in the off season and you go to the closet where we keep him, and you have Lil Jon and Terry Crews like on top of each other. Like it's a very weird,
so
bizarre
weird.
thing.
Yeah. So when did that idea hit you? Was it always marionettes? Were you going to try another medium at first?
No,
or?
well, another buddy of mine who's another great producer. We having this conversation. He had this thought, and it's like finding a really great way of doing it. And I love Team America.
Yeah, that's what you think of right away, right?
Yeah, I love Team America, and I thought it was so ridiculous because the fact that you can actually just milk one face, and then the camera work and the director can make that face feel something. Like when you have like a slow zoom on T-Pain, you kind of have like this emotional connection with the soundtrack and the chorus, and it just made me laugh, But it was a collective idea. We were all like, this makes the most sense.
Have you, by any chance, I know this is a long shot, but like as a fan of Team America, and I remember when that movie came out, there were a lot of interviews, and Trey and Matt would always talk about how they're never working with puppets again. It was such a nightmare. Have you guys found it as difficult as maybe they described it being back then, or do you think it's easier for you guys because of all the crazy technology that are in these puppets now?
Technology really does help. The puppets don't really have any ego, so that's an easy coast. You coast, but the green screen and the ability to have cameras that can be agile and small enough that you can go into their world and have almost like a real life. These puppets are like this tall, They're pretty big. I mean, they look small here, obviously, but they're tall. They're about this height. And I also gave myself about an extra 2 inches just so I can be taller than all the other celebrities. I just thought it was important, guys, okay? I just thought it was important. But just keeping it real, guys. It's like in my license, I'm 5'9.5", but I just told them I was 5'10", And then it says 5'10" on my license, I also have blue eyes in my license. But anyways, the point is that the technology and narrative actually really helps. But there's some really talented marionette masters, right? And they make these puppets do things that you forget that somebody has a puppet on a string and they're just maneuvering it. Like it blows my mind like what these guys can do with strings and a wooden doll, But yeah, I mean technology really does help. To answer your question, it's very tricky. Yeah. What's trickier is we have to get the artist to find within their schedule to sit down, tell that story. So then our segment producers and all of us can pick the moments in their story will be the funniest to animate. And then the technical side of it is, at that point we have to write the scenario and then we have to take certain liberties to kind of have a little more fun with the reenactment. And that's how it happens. That's how it works. But, big shout out to my whole crew and my team. The miracles they worked for this season was pretty intense. We take it to a different level.
Well, I was going to say, it's got to be a big team working on a show like this. This is one of those things that it looks easy when you're watching it at home. Oh, it's just a bunch of puppets dancing around. But like there's set design, there's special effects, the writing, the editing.
And there's a wardrobe department that's whole job is to make this clothes. This is the other thing. Like you look at the puppet, you're like, oh, it's very funny. But they're like, what do you think about this tracksuit? I just created that last night. I'm like, that tracksuit looks super legit. Or you have like, okay, they grab a picture from T-Pain's like most famous music video. So they'll grab that wardrobe and they'll make that wardrobe. So I mean, big shout out to our wardrobe department too, because they're doing is they're tailoring like real outfits from the artists that they're wearing and things that you'll see and you'll be like, I remember when they wore that gold jacket. I remember whatever. So they're literally hand making everything.
That's so crazy. And you got to think too, like how often do they get to really spread their wings and fly like that? That is such a specific like niche profession and a dying art because of all like digital taking over practical effects, and that they get to make all of these amazing little outfits for these puppets is pretty cool, man. It's really awesome. Well, I have one more question that I want to ask you about your production company as well, but it's season 2. Season 1, you called up all your friends, you got everybody out there. Not to suggest these aren't your friends as well, but after season 1 got out and people saw the show, were you getting people calling you and saying, hey man, I got a story, you got to put this on the air, this is perfect for your show? Did you get any of that after the first
Yeah, everyone wants to be a marionette, because it is really funny.
Quote.
Think about it, like everybody wants to be a marionette. But it also goes to the philosophy, like remember when we were doing Punk'd back in the day? Yeah. Like Ashton was getting phone calls saying like, dude, can you punk me? And we'd be like, that's not really how it works, like you're not supposed to request a punk, But with this is kind of fun. People just really like the concept and they thought it was just silly enough that it would be fun for the fans and their fans really to see them in a completely different, vulnerable place where they can just be open and just tell a silly story about themselves. And then adding the marionette aspect just makes it extra sillier. So it's fun.
It's so much fun, man. WV Entertainment, man. We were just talking about this backstage. This is huge. You've got the 2-year first look deal with CBS focusing on inclusive and diversity, and this is pretty recent. You guys locked this down, right? Like, yeah.
2 weeks ago.
That's huge, man. Congratulations on that. And it feels like you're kicking into high gear. There's a lot of stuff going on your side, a lot of irons in the fire. You're doing a lot of ththings at once. Talk to me about what this deal means for you, man, and how excited you are and what the story is here.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. It started out with I did a pilot for CBS Studios that I love so much. Unfortunately, it didn't really go. And then I was very flattered. They were very pleased with some of the stuff I did in that pilot, and they asked me if I'd be willing to come in and co-lead with this amazing team of NCIS and join Mark Harmon in the #1 show in the planet.
Pretty crazy.
So it was a very easy decision, But it was one of those things where I just said, okay, let's do. We did a 2-year deal just so make sure we build a character, and if the audience loved it and they liked the character, then then we can continue to do it. But at the time, I just finished doing From Dusk Till Dawn with Robert Rodriguez, and we worked really hard at Minority Report with Spielberg, and all that, and so I really wanted to do more high concept stuff. I wanted to do more action, and in the conversations I had with NCIS, they wanted to do more of that. They just needed somebody that can, break the door open before they knock it, you know, and punch the guy before he handcuffs the guy. So I wanted to be that bad boy. So we created a character that we liked, and it was a good relationship. And they were so open, so collaborative. And at the time, you know, they were making some interesting moves in diversity, and they wanted to include more people in their existing shows that can represent, you know, the underrepresented communities, right? So I loved the relationship, and 2 years in, the deal was up, and then we started, you know, having a conversation about returning to NCIS. And in the conversations I had with the studio, we realized that, you know, in our strength as a company is to bring all those individuals that are the up-and-coming talent and discovering those new writers, producers, showrunners, directors, and also in front of the camera talent to come in and just learn from the greats, right? So the idea is to create real co-productions with people that can really be mentored to be the next showrunner, the next director as well. But the deal is simple, man. I wanted to do shows that all of us could enjoy. And I wanted to develop shows in worlds that really looked like us. Right. When you look at the picture of my supporters meeting, right? Like we had the meeting, you know, and at the park, and we talked. And I see all my fans, and I see all the supporters. You see all ages, all ethnicities. You know, it's a beautiful thing. And I looked at that, and I said, well, how can we bring all of them into the forefront? And the idea was to create shows that are awesome, that we love, really high concept stuff. You know, have some amazing ideas that I love so much, some books that I really appreciate. But behind the cameras and in front of the cameras, really empower diversity to lead and trust them with storytelling. The DNA of the deal really is about creating origin stories from the people that were there, and letting them really consult in the accurate interpretation of who they are as a culture and as a community in America. And that was the point. The point is, like, let's bring everybody who's been there, who's been through the trauma, who's understand the story or whose life it is, and really empower them to tell that story with the mediums and the people and the talent that can make it on the scale that we need it to be for it to be inviting for everybody else.
That's a beautiful thing, man. Well, congratulations on that deal, and I'm really excited to see what you guys bring forward and what those projects look like at the end of the day and what we get to see out of that. You know, because you also too, man, you've been getting involved where it counts, dude. Even in Silly, you were just recently on last week tonight in you know, helping raise awareness about the crisis in Venezuela.
John Oliver, by the way, big shout out to John Oliver. It's one of my favorite guys in the planet.
He's amazing,
and I am his biggest groupie.
Yeah, I don't have a photo of you in the parrot costume. I don't have that.
That's a shame.
I know. I thought of getting that last minute.
Shame.
I was like, I should have grabbed that. But if you haven't seen it, you can find it very easily online. But the piece was really important. Two things. One, you know, what has inspired you recently to put this heavy a focus on moving the needle in a positive direction, telling these stories? And two, after we get that serious answer out of the way, what was that phone call like when he had that favor to ask of you? But start with the inspiration. Let's go there, man, because you're doing so many great things, and you've got so many great positive projects in the works. And I'm just wondering when it hit you like that this became the mission.
Yeah, it actually goes back more than recent days. You know, it goes back to about 2005. I had done a film called Fast Food Nation, and Fast Food Nation was a Richard Linklater film. You know, about the book Fast Food Nation by the author Eric Slosser. And Eric Slosser and Richard Linklater made a great team and were able to develop a project that really tapped into the core of it. We went to the Cannes Film Festival and with dramatic competition, and I was able to, you know, to do this film. But this film really changed me, man. It really did. I mean, I for the first time in my career, I was playing a character that was a real person. Not that all the characters I play are not, but, you know, most characters are entertaining. But this movie was almost a documentary played by actors, because the scenes were so raw, so real, so grounded, that I was able to play an undocumented husband who, with his wife and his wife's sister, crosses the border and takes what we are, which is really kind of rated as one of the most dangerous jobs in America, which is at a slaughterhouse. The slaughterhouse jobs are one of the most dangerous ones because, you know, there's no real regulations or certain things, and, you know, it's actually dangerous. You can slip and you can break, and if you really have insurance, which a lot of these workers don't have, you know, then you are disposable labor, and then just bring a new batch in, right? playing this character was really humbling, but then Richard Linklater and Eric Saucer saw as an opportunity to mentor me and saying, hey man, you know, a lot of you young fans could benefit from listening to real stories that they're, you know, removed from and separated from conversation. And at the time I had a very young following, and I felt like it was important, and they put me before Congress, and they mentored me to actually go and talk about these people that need to be highlighted, the people that take these jobs that we all assume don't exist, and some of us think that it magically gets done. So that's how we started, and then I started working with the census, you know, trying to really get the community, you know, counted, you know, with Rosario Dawson, and we started, you know, with Voto Latino, and now I'm at the board of Voto Latino. And then later in the years, you know, there was a lot of stuff that was happening that was calling all of us to do something that's bigger than ourselves. A lot of our young communities and a lot of our minorities were attacked by, you know, news, by perception, by stereotype, and stereotypes and hate were publicized as another way of expressing yourself, and that created a division in this country that was critical and that was really serious. It's a very serious problem. So America Ferrera, Ryan Pierce Williams, and I, you know, came together and founded this thing called Harness. And Harness is basically a collective group of amazing individuals who are the founders of all the movements that we all, you know, are following along and supporting. And for the first time, we kind of brought us all together. And what all of these movements had in common was that we weren't talking to each other, that we were fighting separate fights, even though it was the exact same one. And we realized in the room that all of us have weaknesses and strengths. And that your weakness, if my strength was your weakness, why couldn't we communicate and make our movements a lot more effective and a lot more powerful? And I think you've seen a very comprehensive way that a lot of our movements are going out there and really storytelling. And artists, for the most part, I was told, 15 years ago that if you're an actor, if you're an artist, you should just stay your lane. But politics are human issues, and human issues are not politics. And that was the misconception in how they separated and told us, the community, the people, the citizens, the people that were affected by this, that we did not have a seat at the table to change. So that was a big thing, you know, and I realized that all of us artists had a big responsibility to now not speak like artists, but speak like people. And if we had the ability to be in front of a lot of people and be heard or create a little bit of noise, that it was our responsibility to do so. If we can embody the stories and tell the stories and continue to bring those stories to the forefront, that we could create a comprehensive emotional conversation that can move the needle. And I think that's where my passion is, and talking about immigration is a big one for me, because if it wasn't for immigration, I wouldn't be living the American dream. If it wasn't for immigration, this land couldn't have been brick by brick built by an immigrant. So I look at the big picture, and I think about the young generation growing up, and looking at a younger generation outside the United States, looking at our country, saying like the country that was made by immigrants are now against immigration and the simple act of seeking asylum and a new opportunity. So that to me is something that is serious, and I don't want my 18-year-old, nephew who's grown up for the last 5 years looking at the word immigration like a dirty word. So it's important. It's important to get involved and connect with people and listen and find compassion so you can stand up for the people that don't have a voice.
Well, and I'll wait for applause for that really eloquent, well said, focused mission. But you talk about, and it reminds me, I think of the image that I saw today of you with your fans, which if they bring it back up, nice, and if not, we've all seen it. But the point is conversation, communication, being open, and that love and that vibe, and all of that passion, it comes through. This is a silly, fun project that I really enjoy, but all of the other stuff that you're working on as well, and all the stuff you got in the pipeline, man, you're a really smart, really creative dude, and it's exciting to see what you're working on. And this show, I could tell you're having a blast making it, man. It's so much fun. You guys do have a lot of fun making this show. There's a lot of great stories and a lot of great stuff going on here as well. We're going to turn it over to the audience in a second, but I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask one quick question that's slightly out of left field here, but you were recently on the ranch with some of your old buddies, man. And it's just we gotta ask, like, what's it like being around, Ashton and Danny again, and kind of do you get the old vibe back a little bit? Does it feels different but the same? What was that like for you, man?
One thing, I didn't answer your question about the John Oliver phone call.
I totally got.
I forgot. But let me like just 2 seconds on that, and then I'll go into that. So I get a phone call, and my team calls me. He goes, so a request just came in. It's last minute. In the next 48 hours, you have to kind of make this decision. If you're willing to go to New York to do a segment on a show out there. And I said, well, what's the show? And they said it'd be John Oliver. And I said, yes.
Done.
That's it. Yes, that's it. And they're like, okay, but you might want to read the creative. Nope. I don't think so. And they're like, well, it requires you to wear a bird costume. Yes, absolutely, I am going. Please, I'll leave first thing in the morning. I want to get there enough, time to rehearse. But honestly, a few of my team members were like, I don't know if that's the look we're going for. And I go, you don't understand. I am going,
This decision was made.
It was made at John.
John, that was it. John
You
Oliver
had me at last week.
Oh, my God. That's so amazing.
But anyway, so I was really, I couldn't be more proud. I just love what he does and what he stands for. So that was an exciting.
Thank you for remembering that question. I really wanted to know that story.
And then when it comes to the ranch, I got to tell you, They called me, they invited me to come and play a character there, and I figured the three of us together again, let me build a character that was not Fez, but let me build a character that nostalgically, kind of dynamically, all three of us would have kind of the same dynamic, even though it was not the character on 70 Show, it was just a different rancher. But so I built the character from scratch, with the accent of a Mexican rancher, and I came into the table read, and the director, David Traynor, directed pretty much all 200 episodes of that 70s show. So they got that director to direct all the episodes of The Ranch. So I walk in, it's David Traynor, then it's Danny and Ashton, and I'm getting the goosebumps, and they look at me, and I look at them, and then right before the table read, we said, let's go, girls. And then we just decided to turn it on, and it was like we have never left.
That's so crazy.
It was so eerie then when we were on set, and we'd be walking from set to set for the next scene while the live audience was there, and David Traynor was walking with us, and it felt like we were, again, 22, 23 years old. Wow. And we went back to the same busting each other's balls and like just being crazy and being silly and very stupid, and then having David Traynor tell us to be quiet because we need to, like we were getting yelled by our director again, like we used to get, yelled at. So it was a beautiful moment to share with those guys.
That's really cool. Well, thanks for sharing that story with me, man. It's crazy. I promise, audience is coming, but just like, you guys saw this thing too, where like if that 70s show were to come out today and be released with the same like delay, it'd be that 90s show, which like really put it in perspective and made me feel absolutely ancient. I was like, oh my God. Would it be what now?
Yes.
It's just like, it's wild, man, that a show from the 90s, about the 70s, people are still, it's always up and popular on Netflix. People are still watching it, man. It still resonates. You guys just did a really good job, man. You lightning in a bottle,
Best time of my life.
Awesome, man. Yeah. All right, man of my word. We got some microphones out there. Let's get some questions. First one's going to be right here. Let's do it up.
Hi, I'm Dumaris from Puerto Rico.
Eso.
Yes. And my question is, like, out of all the possibilities you had, what was the thing that triggered you to say, I'm doing a Muppet show? Yeah. And how does that experience compare to your regular acting?
Okay, so the decision of making it marionettes and puppets, you mean? It was just, I had this weird, well, first of all, it was a collective effort, my team, and I gotta give my team a lot of credit, and my co-producers, because we all had the same kind of reaction, and it was like a lightning in a bottle moment where I was like, I just have this image of a slow close-up on an emotionless face, totally, and then a music over it, and just like it has no expression except that. Imagine just zooming into that with like a really sad song, and like the face doesn't say sadness, but the zoom in does, and the music does, and I just felt like it was so ridiculous, and also a lot easier for voiceover. you can plug in any funny line if something doesn't work, and because you're not reading lips. So that kind of also made it simple for us.
Yeah, that's, I
Interesting.
never thought of that. That's a really good call. 'Cause you're not
how,
reading lips. So.
Yeah, and how this compares to other characters and things in my life, it doesn't.
This is
it really
on its
doesn't.
own.
It really doesn't. Yeah. Anyways.
Thank you for that, Liz. I got one more. Where is it at? Right here. Go for it.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm an aspiring actress, and I'm wanting to break into the film, television kind of world. Do you have any advice for breaking into the industry?
Sure. Surround you. First and foremost, there's a couple of things that we have to do, right? And there's a little bit of a cleansing that has to happen. And let me explain what that means. Sometimes we surround ourselves with people who either have had fallen dreams or don't necessarily believe in ambition, believe in comfortability. And when we're trying to dream out loud and dream big, we may have subliminal voices that don't necessarily mean it this way. Doesn't mean that they don't necessarily believe in you. They just create reasonable doubt in your process. You have to clean that. You have to get that out of your way. And you have to surround yourself with people that are constantly going to say, I can see it. Yes. Oh my God, you were very funny. Yes, good. Oh, you're going to get better and better. Yes. You have to have a level of harmony around you that makes you fearless. Then eventually makes you look yourself in the mirror and say, this is what I am. This is who I am. And I know why I'm doing it. Once you figure out why you're doing it, you're going to start having more fun, right? How you break in is you got to continue to perform. You got to keep your engine warm, right? You got to train yourself. You got to look. Take the hardest scenes. Take your time, like a week, 2 weeks, break it down. What did this character mean? What did this person mean? Where did they come from? Like, just dive in and understand the human experience. And that'll make you connect to any character, right? So just really like sharpen your tools, train yourself. Really don't ever stop performing because you're waiting for the next audition. Representation, there's gonna be many. But sometimes you just know that it'll take one role to introduce you to a whole industry. It might even take that same role to introduce you to the world. I never knew that playing this silly character that had probably about 6 or 7 lines an episode in the first season was going to be so quotable and so liked and so beloved by my amazing supporters, right? I never knew, because all I did was show up to work and just swing really hard and just hope that people liked it. But all I did was show up and just do your best. Surround yourself with people that believe in you. Those people that don't believe in your dream play no role or influence in their pollution into the energy you need. Is just not welcome, right? So as an artist, from an artist to another artist, continue to perform. Film yourself doing scenes. Tape yourself doing scenes. Watch yourself back. Don't be afraid to see yourself, see your mistakes, because that'll make you like just cold, precise, cold-blooded, and you have to be fearless, and you have to take rejection as constructive criticism, not as like you weren't good enough, right? Make yourself fearless, and I'm passionate about this question because a lot of people will tell you to not do it. And a lot of people told me to not do it. Why? Because I couldn't see myself on television. There was no characters on television in the 90s that I could be like, that's me. So it was easier for people to be like, come on, right? I mean, it's not just me. There's no one like you on television, and no one sounds like you on television. So it was easy for people to discourage me. But I had something that I'll leave you that will be for the rest of your career, because I hope we work together at some point and you remind me of this, Chad. I met Robin Williams when I was 18 years old. I was about to turn 19 years old. He came to meet Kurtwood Smith, who had done Dead Poets Society with him, and he was doing LA Doctors across the soundstage from that 70s show, and he was doing a guest star there. And then he came over, and I said, hey, any advice you have for an up-and-coming guy like me, And he said, yeah, 2 things. He said, number 1, remember that your fans are gonna have, and I didn't have fans at the time, right? But he's like, remember that your fans are gonna have 2 to 3 minutes of your time for the rest of their life. What 2 or 3 minutes you want them to walk away with? The next advice he said to me is, remember and never forget that it's supposed to be fun. The moment that it stops being fun, something is off, something is not balanced, you gotta fix it immediately. Don't let your art be polluted by the daily stress, because your art is only pure because it's your escape. It's where you thrive, right? So make sure that it's always fun. If something doesn't feel like it's fun, something is wrong, something is off. Figure it out right away and then keep pushing.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for that question. Thank you for that response. That was phenomenal. I've got, Liz, is that it? We got to wrap it up? She's giving me the nod, the wrap it up nod and hand dance.
Sorry I talked so much, guys.
No, man. That is the whole point of you coming here. It was fantastic to have you on the show. I hope you had a good time with us, man.
Yeah, man. I just want to say what you guys are doing here with Build is remarkable. I'm such a fan of the show. I love watching the show because you really get to dive in, unlike any other interviews, not only in what makes pop culture relevant and work, but you dive into kind of the heart of why we're doing all of this, and we go back to the why, you know? So I appreciate you guys having me here, and I hope I can come back and talk about all this stuff that matters too, you know? But I appreciate the questions, so.
Thank you so much. You can come back whenever you want, and I would be remiss not to shout out our crew as well. There's a whole village that makes this happen, man.
And thank you to all my beautiful fans that came to support.
Thank you, everybody.
I love you guys so much.
Let's do it one more time. Make some noise. Of course, guys, Season 2, Hollywood Puppet Show, Tuesday, July 17th at 10:30 on Fuse. Wilmer Valderrama, come on.
Hey.
Wilmer Valderrama.
Hey.